Hello and welcome to Beyond the Continent. I am Adebola Adedugba, and here are stories making the headlines. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has signed the HB3, which prohibits children under the age of 14 from becoming social media account holders. And this comes as the effect of the platforms on teens generate rising concern in the United States. The law says 14 and 15-year-olds will need parental consent to use such platforms. Despite worries about social media, the law also raised free speech concerns and comes at a time when right-wing state governments have pushed controversial parental rights legislation, notably affecting education. Speaker of the Florida House, Paul Renner, says social media is fraught with risks from traffickers and pedophiles, and social media platforms have caused devastating effect on the mental well-being of children. And joining me on the news for a bit more context on the story is our international correspondent, Afua Hagan. Afua, what is the motivation behind Ron DeSantis bringing up this bill?
This bill, like you so rightly said, will ban under 14s from using social media. 14 and 15-year-olds will have to have some sort of parental consent to join social media sites. Now, they talk about the fact that a child in brain development doesn't have the ability to be able to decipher between things that are harmful, that will influence them incorrectly, and perhaps be under influence from traffickers, like you said, or from content that could cause them harm. And that children in those brain development stages don't need to be seeing the content that is often displayed on social media at that time. Now, this is actually a bit of a watered down version of the initial bill, and that bill would have banned everybody under the age of 16, regardless of parental consent, from signing up to a social media account. Now, Ron DeSantis actually vetoed that bill, and so had this come into effect, which, like I said, has some elements of parental consent in there. But like I said, this is about brain development, about children not having access to popular social media platforms, and to protect them, essentially, that's what they say, from looking at content that is harmful.
Now, with Florida setting the tone, do you think this would have a ripple effect on other states following suit and doing the same thing?
Well, in Arkansas, a federal judge blocked an enforcement of a similar law. But you could have other states go down this route. I mean, social media and the use of social media and the power that these platforms have is really a hot button topic. I mean, you had leaders of social media firms, CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg, up in front of Senate committees earlier on this month, being challenged on what they're going to do to make social media platforms safer for young people. And so if there is no real movement from social media platforms and their ability to be able to do that, then yes, I think we could have a situation where you might have more states trying to take control of what young people are able to see on social media, and perhaps having more states bringing in things like age limits and parental consent for kids to be able to access social media.
Now, on the grounds of free speech, could there be a challenge to this bill?
Yes, and that's where, in fact, this bill could fall down now. Ron DeSantis and the governor here in Florida, other lawmakers in Florida, excuse me, have said that they expect a challenge from social media companies the second that this is signed. But they think that this could withstand legal challenges because it's a ban on social media formats based on their addictive features, notification alerts, also play videos and things like that, rather than the actual content. So they think that that could be the workaround that can make sure this bill has passed. And also, like you said, in terms of freedom of speech, it's infringing on the First Amendment rights of younger users of the internet. And so it could infringe on their rights that way. So definitely, I think we can expect some legal challenges against this bill in Florida, and certainly in any other state where it may come to pass.
Well, thank you so much for shedding light on this, Afua Hagan, our international correspondent. A major bridge in the U.S. city of Baltimore has entirely collapsed into the Patapsco River after being hit by a container ship. Video shows the bridge breaking up and quickly plunging into the water along with vehicles and people. Aerial shots of the scene shows a ship wedged into debris from the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which is 1.6 miles long and part of a major highway. According to authorities, rescuers are searching for at least 7 people, while 2 others have been pulled from the water. The port of Baltimore near the bridge is the largest in the U.S. for specialized cargo. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has announced more than $1 billion in private funding that had been added to an initiative designed partly to combat illegal immigration as she meets with Guatemala's new leader, Bernardo Arevalo. The investment will go towards projects including an initiative to transport crops from small farms to new and larger markets, construction of a new industrial park, and digital financial inclusion and workforce development programs.
Today's announcement of more than $1 billion in new investments includes energy transmission projects to connect people to the grid, an initiative to transport crops from small farms to new and larger markets, construction of a new industrial park, and digital financial inclusion and workforce development programs.
Let's head to North America, where we understand that about 2,000 migrants began working in southern Mexico in what has become a traditional demonstration during Holy Week before Easter to draw attention to their plight. Leaving Tapachula near the Guatemalan border at dawn, the migrants, the advocates said their goal was to reach Mexico's capital and highlight the dangers they face, including robberies, sexual assault, extortion, and kidnapping. Mexico has practiced a containment strategy in recent years that aims to keep migrants in southern Mexico far from the U.S. border. Migrants can languish there for months trying to regularize their status through asylum or other means. Migrants say there is little work available and most carry large debts to smuggle.
Hay más elementos, hay más posibilidad de que la migración sea más humana, pero no hay esa disponibilidad en el gobierno para dar otro rostro a la migración.
Representa el dolor de la trama del migrante. Al querer llegar a los Estados Unidos, ellos padecen persecución, padecen asesinatos, padecen secuestros masivos, que ya los estamos viendo, padecen extorsión y robo de una dependencia que debe de desaparecer. Esa dependencia se llama Instituto Nacional de Migración.
Experiencias diferentes, muchas experiencias, tanto en la selva como en los países de Centroamérica, sobre todo en Guatemala.
¿Verdad?
En Guatemala fuimos robados prácticamente por los policías guatemaltecos y lamentablemente pues bueno, es la realidad que estamos viviendo nosotros.
Venezuela's opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, says there is a lot of anger after her Democratic Unitary Platform party was prevented from officially registering its own presidential candidate, Corina Yoris, in the country's July elections. Machado maintained that Corina Yoris, an 80-year university professor who was proposed as her replacement, was her preferred option. Despite Machado's resounding victory in the opposition primary last year, Maduro-supporting judges prohibited her from running for public office for 15 years.
Pidió que la plataforma unitaria inscribiera a la doctora Corina Yoris como la candidata que cuenta con la confianza de los venezolanos. Por cierto, así de débil estará este régimen. Son horas muy difíciles, hay profundas decepciones, hay mucha rabia, hay mucha indignación. Mucha gente siente que se burlaron de ellos, que estas acciones de estas últimas horas desconocen el mandato y la lucha que los venezolanos. Mi mensaje es el mismo. Nuestra candidata es Corina Yoris.
And now let's head to Europe, where Buckingham Palace has announced that King Charles III will attend an Easter Sunday church service at his most high-profile engagement since revealing a cancer diagnosis. The monarch and his wife, Camilla, will attend the Easter Martin service at the St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, a long-standing annual tradition of Britain's royal family. The announcement on Tuesday comes after 75-year-old King's daughter-in-law, Catherine, Princess of Wales, last week said she was also receiving treatment for cancer. With two of the monarch's most senior members battling serious illnesses at the same time, the monarchy finds itself in an unparalleled predicament in contemporary times. You're live with News Central TV. Let's take a short break. We have more stories for you. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned. Russia's Commissioner for Human Rights has called the use of torture against detainees as unacceptable. Tatiana Moshkalkova was speaking after the publication of videos showing the interrogation of suspects in last week's attack at the Crocus City Concert Hall near Moscow that killed at least 139 people. The attack was claimed by the Islamic State. One of the suspected gunmen had part of his ear cut off during questioning, and all four bore visible injuries when they appeared at a Moscow court on Sunday. Moskalkova said any procedural and operational actions must be carried out in accordance with the law. The Kremlin declined to comment when asked if they had been tortured. U.S. Ambassador to Russia, Lynn Tracy, has called the Russian court verdict to extend reporter Evan Gershkovich's pre-trial detention particularly painful, as the week marks the first anniversary since Evan was arrested. March 29 marks 1 year since Gershkovich's surprise arrest by FSB counterintelligence agents in the Ural city of Yekaterinburg. His employers and the White House all vehemently rejected the charge of espionage, which they say was fabricated. The prosecutors accused the Wall Street Journal reporter of espionage, the first such charge against a Western journalist in Russia since the fall of the Soviet Union.
Evan has displayed remarkable resilience and strength in the face of this grim situation. But it is time for the Russian government to let Evan go. The Russian government has yet to present any evidence to substantiate its accusations. No justification for Evan's continued detention, and no explanation as to why Evan, doing his job as a journalist, constituted a crime.
Let's tell you that China has lashed out at the United States and the United Kingdom for imposing sanctions over alleged Chinese government-backed cyber attacks, calling the Western allies' move an act of political manipulation. China's foreign ministry spokesperson said Washington and others should stop their own cyber attacks. He adds that Britain's evidence for alleging its electoral commission and MPs had been hacked was inadequate. The US and UK have blamed a Chinese state-run cyber unit for the attacks. This comes after UK officials on Monday said 2 Chinese nationals as well as a corporation will be subject to sanctions. British authorities claim Wuhan Science and Technology Company Limited is a cyber espionage group linked with the Chinese state Advanced Persistent Threat Group 31.
美国出于地缘政治目的，鼓动其主导的世界上最大的情报组织五眼联盟，编凑、散布各种中国黑客威胁的虚假信息。现在又伙同英国，大肆的炒作所谓的中国网络攻击，甚至发起对华的无理单边制裁。中方对此坚决反对，已向美及相关方提出了严正交涉，将采取必要措施维护中方的。
Staying in Asia, a suicide bomber rammed a vehicle into a convoy of Chinese engineers working on a dam project in northwest Pakistan on Tuesday, killing 6 people. This is the third major attack on Chinese interests in Pakistan in a week. The first 2 attacks hit an airbase and a strategic port in the southwest province of Balochistan, where China is investing in infrastructure project. Mohammed Grandopur, the regional police chief, said the engineers were on their way from Islamabad to their camp at the dam construction site in Dasu. 5 Chinese nationals and their Pakistani drivers were killed in the attack. Dasu is the site of the major dam, and the area has been attacked in the past.
बाद से गिलगित की तरफ जा रही थी और जब गिलगित की तरफ जा रही थी तो हमारा जो यहाँ पे एंड है डिस्ट्रिक्ट की, तो उसकी एंड की तकरीबन 1 किलोमीटर उससे आगे उस पर खुदकश धमाका हुआ है। तो उनमें से उन चाइनीज़ की गाड़ी जो एक बस थी उसमें 5 बंदे, ड्राइवर के अलावा सवार थे चाइनीज़, और उसके साथ उसने टकराई है अपनी गाड़ी खुदकश ने। अंदाज़ा इस तरह लगता है 10:30 पोजीशन यही है।
In the meantime, Pakistani government officials have met Chinese ambassador Jiang Zhaidong to offer condolences and pledge solidarity after a suicide attack in northern Pakistan killed 5 Chinese nationals. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, as well as Interior and Foreign Ministers, arrived at China's embassy in Islamabad within hours of the bombing. In a statement reported by Chinese state media, the Chinese embassy in Islamabad described the bombing as a terrorist act. The Chinese embassy and the consulates in Pakistan also condemned the terrorist act and extended sympathies to the families of the victims. India's Aam Aadmi Party supporters have been detained by police following a protest against the arrest of New Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal in the connection with a long-running corruption probe. Atishwi Malena Singh, New Delhi's education minister and fellow member of Kejriwal's AAP, said statutory and constitutional provisions allowed him to remain in his post while behind bars. This comes after Arvind, Chief Minister of New Delhi and a key leader in an opposition alliance, formed to compete against Prime Minister Narendra Modi in upcoming election, was arrested on Thursday in connection with a long-running corruption probe.
If Arvind Kejriwal resigns as the Chief Minister, it opens out the route for BJP to bring down all opposition governments in the country. Right? Arvind Kejriwal has not been convicted. There's been no trial. The Representation of People Act is very clear that very clear conditions are laid out as to when you cannot remain an elected representative. So if you are convicted and you get punished for a period of more than 2 years, then you cannot remain an elected representative. So there are very clear legal, statutory and constitutional provisions by which a government stays or a government falls. Now, if Arvind Kejriwal was to resign because he has been arrested in a case in the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, where there has been no trial, where there has been no conviction, then doesn't this open out the route for bringing down all opposition governments?
In the Middle East, Qatar's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Gaza truce and hostage exchange talks are ongoing, adding there was no development that would lead to thinking that one of the teams had pulled out of the negotiation. Majid al-Ansari also rejected Israel's claim that a UN Security Council resolution calling for a ceasefire that passed on Monday had an immediate impact on the talks. Qatar, with the United States and Egypt, has been engaged in weeks of behind-the-scenes talks in a bid to secure a truce in Gaza and the release of Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners being held in Israeli jails.
Didn't have any, a development that would lead to thinking that, one of the teams was pulled out of the negotiations at the time. So, regardless of the comings and goings of these teams, the meetings are still ongoing here in Doha, and I can confirm that part of the negotiating teams are still here in Doha conducting the negotiations as we speak. We haven't seen any immediate effect on the talks. They are, as I said, they are ongoing as they were before this decision was taking place. Other statements, that came out from the Israeli government are, bilaterally between the U.S. and Israel, and they have not affected the talks as we speak right now. Regarding the Security Council resolution, we have said very clearly we welcome such a move because we welcome any international diplomatic initiative, whether it be regional or international, in support of ending this terrible conflict. And that is certainly coming from the Security Council in such language is very helpful, and we hope that this momentum would continue and that we can build on this decision to expedite the end of this war.
Yemen's Houthi rebels say they have targeted what they claim to be an Israeli cargo ship, the MSC Silva, in the Gulf of Aden near the entrance to the Red Sea with a number of missiles. Houthi military spokesperson Yahya Sari did not elaborate, but in a statement on Tuesday said the group also used drones to target a number of United States warships in the Red Sea and Arabian Sea, as well as sites in the southern Israeli resort town of Eilat. However, the British maritime security firm Embrace said the container ship targeted by the Houthis on Tuesday was Liberia flagged and headed for Somalia.
الشعب الفلسطيني وتدشينا للعام العاشر من الصمود في مواجهة العدوان الأمريكي البريطاني على بلدنا. نفذت القوات المسلحة اليمنية 6 عمليات عسكرية خلال 72 ساعة الماضية بعدد كبير من الصواريخ البالستية والطائرات المسيرة. نفذت القوات البحرية والقوات الصاروخية 4 عمليات مشتركة على 4 سفن، منها سفينة ميرسك ساروتوغا الأمريكية في خليج عدن، وسفينة أبل ديترويت الأمريكية في البحر الأحمر، وسفينة وانغ بو البريطانية في البحر الأحمر، وسفينة بريتي ليدي والتي كانت متجهة إلى موانئ فلسطين المحتلة. ونفذ سلاح الجو المسير بعون الله تعالى عملية عسكرية نوعية استهدفت مدمرتين حربيتين أمريكيتين في البحر الأحمر. ونفذت القوة الصاروخية بعون الله تعالى عملية عسكرية استهدفت من خلالها عددا من الأهداف الإسرائيلية في منطقة أم الرشراش جنوبي فلسطين المحتلة، وقد حققت العمليات العسكرية أهدافها.
And that's all on Beyond the Continent. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.